More women are venturing into manufacturing. However, securing finance remains a huge challenge. This week, we speak to Harriet Ng'ok, the founder of Harriet Botanicals, on what it takes to scale a business in manufacturing. My name is Claire Munde, and this is She Means Business. Hi, Harriet.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Welcome to She Means Business.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored.
Thank you. Now, today we want to have a conversation around women in manufacturing, some of the barriers, how to succeed in that space. And I think a good place to start is, a lot of people, women and men, start out businesses in their kitchen. So they're making something, whether it's oil, whether it's food or whatever, and then it becomes bigger and bigger, and then they have to graduate from there. So you have been in the manufacturing space for a couple of years, about 5. Tell us, how did you get into the area of manufacturing? Were you in employment before, or how did that pan out?
I was in employment before, actually. I was in London and I worked in investment banking. I worked for Goldman Sachs and JP and the Financial Services Authority. And I've been in finance. I did a law degree, 2 law degrees actually. So I never intended to get into manufacturing. What happened is I had a condition called endometriosis, which I struggled with when I lived abroad. And when I came home and I resettled back, somebody gave me a concoction. The first one was from webuye. We used to call it webuye. And I'd boil it in the kitchen. And as time graduated, I got a better concoction, the one that really was very effective. And I was just making it in the kitchen, 5 bottles a day, a bottle a liter. I used to get Coke bottles from my neighbors and giving it to friends. And fast forward, what happened in post-COVID is like now the demand exploded. So I was at home. I started 10 bottles maybe on 1 Jiko, just in the kitchen. And then I graduated to 10 Jikos, 10 bottles, and that was in the garage or outside the garage. And that time I was then sending them to G4S and they'd be dispatched. So I did not intend necessarily to get into manufacturing of this kind of product. What then happened is I outgrew the house because the kitchen was where I was doing my labeling, the sitting room was meeting clients. I had turned the home into my little manufacturing facility. So I moved to Karangata Park. First I just got an office there. That's what I could afford, and I continued doing my dispatch from there, and then eventually I built a factory.
Okay, now let's talk about scale, because a lot of times women and even men have a problem of moving that business idea into something that is scalable, and they say sometimes what you're interested in or your hobby does not necessarily translate into a business that is viable long term. Now for you, you have a financial background. What would you say some of the mistakes women make when it comes to trying to scale their businesses? Because sometimes they say you haven't packaged yourself well. You have a great idea, but you don't package yourself well, and that brings a problem when you're seeking financing. So talk to us about some of the barriers.
As women initially, just like me, I thought this was just something I was doing in the kitchen and giving it to friends. So I undercosted. Number one, I just thought it's just like my hobby. It's like something that I cook. So the first thing is you undervalue what it is that you're doing. Number 2, you see it as a side hustle. You don't see it as a real job or as an entrepreneurial activity. I can imagine when men start doing things, they take it seriously enough to say, this is something I want to concentrate on. But most women either have a job or they're a mom or they're busy in the home doing this as a side thing. They take the money from this side thing and they go and do their food shopping and they pay school fees. So the first misuse of capital starts right there in the home. The way you're using the money that you make from the business, for you it's just like, oh, fuel my car or do that. And for me it's the same. I used to use it. I was still doing finance gigs at the time, finance consulting. So this was my pocket money, my fuel money, and my lunch money. That's really how I started. So from the beginning, I am sort of misallocating capital. Number 2, I am undervaluing the whole thing. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is just this product I made. Yeah, my friends try it out, let me know. No formalization at all. Number 3, human resource. I'm getting my friends. This one works here. I'm getting a daughter of a friend, a son of a friend. You be the this, you be the HR, you be my PA. As the business grows, I'm getting friends and family and relatives to come and work for me. It's a very big mistake because those are people you're putting into your organization and you don't know it, but they are formally employed under Kenya employment law. So when it's time to assess the needs of the people the things that you need versus the crowd that you have in there, it's a complete mismatch. So there's the whole informality around women's businesses. You know, you talk about mama mboga, you talk about, you know, that woman is just a mama mboga. But, you know, mama mboga is a grocery store. So there are people who, what they will do with a grocery store becomes Naivas, becomes Carrefour. But you're just mama mboga. When you take the money, you've made lots of money from mama mboga, you go and get rentals. Right now, you know, you'll see yourself like the rentals is more serious than this thing that you're doing, where you're actually serving the nation, keeping families alive, keeping us healthy, and building communities.
Wow, very interesting points you've put out there. And I'd like to talk about two of them. That issue of underselling. That happens to a lot of people across the board. So how do you go about selling yourself right? So how do you put the things in place? And then the second thing I'd like you to address is that issue of, as you said, you're not formalizing things, because sometimes people feel it's not that they don't want to formalize, but they think, oh my goodness, this is going to come with a whole lot of other costs. So I have an HR person, I have a finance person, I have a lawyer. These are so many costs, and I'm just starting out, and not everyone has the benefit of having had another gig that feeds into this business. So how do you go about that in a sustainable way?
So I would say that with formalization, I think I can start with that one. It's you see, you don't take yourself seriously. That's the thing with us women. We're not socialized to take ourselves seriously from the beginning as business women. Our education is focused on you becoming a lawyer, you becoming an accountant, you becoming an architect, you becoming a doctor, but never you becoming an entrepreneur, never you becoming a manufacturer, never you becoming an owner of a supermarket. So you see, you're doing something so amazing, but the stigma or the socialization has not prepared you for the new persona that you are. As you're living in this persona, you're doing well, but now you're wasting time because you're not allocating time properly. You're also wasting money because now you're giving it to your cousin, you're giving it to your sister-in-law. Somebody has a wedding, you're in there. Somebody has a charmer, you're in there. Again, you know, that becomes so problematic in future, because you're building a business. It is thriving, but it is not thriving for you the way it's supposed to. Now there'll come a time the business is doing well and people start paying attention. Then you have to start paying your taxes, and you'll find maybe because you did not have an accountant, you did not pay tax 2 years ago, you don't know whether you are VAT enabled. So it's almost like you now painfully get out of the person you used to be to become the person you're supposed to be for that business. You get attention, the media comes, you're on social media, your friends say you're doing really well. You know, you start thinking, hey, this is really serious. You know, now you become a real business. So it's like a real business in your head first, before it becomes a real business for you, the way you start, you know, automating.
Okay, now let's talk about, you said women sometimes look at this as a side hustle rather than the main hustle, but sometimes that's the way it starts. Yeah. So at what point do we transition? Because maybe you're saying, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, but there's money that's needed. So I'm going to work for a couple of years and then I'm going to transition. So how do you not have that mentality of, this is just my side hustle, but at the same time get enough money so that even when I'm leaving my job, I'm not just going both feet in? Because there's some people who are risk takers and they'll go both feet in. There's some who are like, no, I'll try one foot and then I'll come when everything is stabilized.
So there'll never be a point when everything is stabilized in the business, whether you're 10 years in, 20 years in, or 5 years in, or 1 year in. What will happen, what tends to happen, especially with women, is your business overwhelms you. It outlives your kitchen. You are just doing like 5 jams for friends. Now you're doing 40 jams for, you know, let's say events. Somebody says, oh, I have an event coming. I'd like you to bake me 50 cakes. Because first you said, I did a cake for my friend. It was nice. Now my friend came back and said, the whole charmer, they have like events in December. They'd like you to do 10 cakes, yeah? Now your same kitchen is doing 10 cakes. Then a big order comes. Actually, there's a big conference happening and you have to deliver 2,000 cupcakes. Still in the same kitchen. So you see, your business has overwhelmed you. Your creativity is so powerful. You as a woman have no issues with the fact that you're creative. You can create. But now to manage the business, to scale, you have already scaled. Scaling means you went from producing 10 to 100 to 1,000. But now what you need is things to support the scaling. You need maybe more riders. You need somebody who controls your logistics. You need somebody who controls your calendar. And then you need space. So when you go looking for space, because your kids and your husband will throw you out, they'll say, we've had enough of these cakes, mom. Please, we are tired. We want to do our own things. I want my kitchen back. I want my home back. I want my sitting room back. So you'll be forced to go and look for, now you say, I want a kitchen. What kind of kitchen? A commercial kitchen. Now you're in manufacturing, because you have to bring in the equipment, you have to bring in the standards, you have to bring in the good manufacturing practices, you have to bring in the qualified staff. Now you have to go and talk to KEBS, you have to go and talk to anybody else, because you can't sell without the proper licenses. You have to talk to City Council. So you have already scaled and you are forced. It would have been better if you did it intentionally. The way in the West, for instance, they have startup campus, they have institutions like Kirdi where you can go and make the product. It's already like an entrepreneurial culture. So whatever it is you create, people know from here you go here. There should be steps. So now that we're talking so much as women, we're meeting even as entrepreneurs, we're telling each other, go to Kirdi first. Go and like take your product and test it out there. Then now, how do you get into supermarkets? You see, to get into supermarkets, you're going to need all the regulations. To have staff, you're now going to need somebody to manage the staff, because things could be going wrong in your organization. There might be bullying, there might be somebody doesn't show up, there might be some kind of misbehaving, there could be stealing. You will now think, I can handle this, I fire this person, or I just get another person to come in. And then that's all wrong, because the day they come and sue you and you discover you did not have an employee's handbook, you don't have holiday, some people don't take holiday, how are you going to do all these things? So you'll be forced. The market will force you. If you stay in business long enough, the market will force you to formalize and get all the things that you need. You'll go to a supermarket and say, I want to supply you, look at my cakes. I mean, I'm moving 1,000 cakes, 1,000 cupcakes a week, or I'm moving 300 a day. I mean, they're being eaten here. This is what's going on. I'm just using the analogy of the cake, right? So they'll say to you, okay, do you have KEBS? Okay, how do you package? Okay, we want eco-friendly packaging. Okay, we want them delivered in sets of 12. Okay, we want 7 varieties. Now they'll be like, we want 1,000 cakes in 10 varieties in 100 boxes, standardized.
Yeah, it's a lot. Huh? It's a lot. And let's talk about this standardization and standards and regulations that come with scaling. And as you said, if you don't do it, you'll be forced to do it. We're just having a side chat before this interview, and you're talking about you first moved into one place and then you moved to a bigger place because you are trying to achieve that standard. Tell us your personal story of how your business has evolved. What have been the hurdles? What has been successful? What hasn't been so successful?
So for me, what was successful was the product I created, which was really just for my painful menses. It literally exploded. But I was just giving it to friends. I gave it to a friend who was due for a hysterectomy. I gave it to another friend who had painful menses. You know, I was just here, you take this. But it's like they were telling friends, and it was happening through WhatsApp. WhatsApp is an amazing community to grow a business. And there came a time when I was getting so many calls, and people were, I'd put up a video, I did a video, and the video up to now got 4 million views. It's actually been paused, and that was at the time 5 years ago. The video went viral. For me to put the video on WhatsApp, I was told I have to get certification, so I went to the Ministry of Culture. I went to University of Nairobi Pharmacology and Pharmacognosy. They had to test my product, give me a letter, and then now I became an official herbalist, herbal practitioner. Once I'm official, I put my video on, it went viral, because it's illegal for you to advertise without the requisite qualifications. So those are like, I call those are like the amazing days when it was just like more and more, we're just selling more and more. And next thing, I got a shop, just one shop. First I got a shelf. I overwhelmed the shelf, so they told me no. Everybody comes here just for Harriet's Botanicals products. And you know, I have 50 vendors in here, and you've only taken one shelf for 4,000 shillings. But my whole entire staff spend the day dealing with you. My riders spend the day dealing with your products. The demand was so huge. I mean, the issues of endometriosis, PCOS, adenomyosis, blocked fallopian tubes, primary infertility, secondary infertility, hydrosalpinx, you know, fibroids, ovarian cysts, Asherman syndrome. I mean, women are going through things, a lot of hormonal imbalances, a lot of it related to the fact that we've changed our lifestyle and what we eat. So for me, the positives is that I had an incredible product that was moving. And then I had a great support group in that WhatsApp group, because they said, "Sasa umetengeneza ya wamama, what about my husband?" So I just developed a second product. Then it was COVID. People said, "Are you the only person who can't get us something that can help us with respiratory health?" I went back to the village, got the formulation for an old pneumonia of the lungs. And it just went like that. So The positives is having a product that doesn't have a lot of competition. Now, the negatives is all the things I've talked about, the lack of structures, the lack of systems, because now, let's say you have a shop, and from that shop, products are moving, and then they're being sold. You need receipts, right? You need a lot of talking to customers. We call it the detailing. A customer is on the line talking about her painful menses. She's frustrated at that time. There's a conversation that has to happen. You have to bring in the doctor's report. You have to be talking to doctors. There's a lot of work now on the customer service side, whether it's the phone system that you use. You need a CRM, customer relationship management program. You need to be a data controller. So these are things that will cost you money. Now you're investing back in the business. So the challenge is not knowing what to do next. When it came to manufacturing, I got a lot of support from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. A friend of mine said, join KEPSA, join CAM, join ReTrack. All of them will help you. And when I joined, I was like a micro SME. When I joined CAM had an amazing program for entrepreneurs. It still does, including number 1, strategy. You see, before that, you don't know strategy. Number 2, business development. Number 3, marketing. Number 4, sales. Then even marketing includes things like how to run an event and how to measure an event. Things like commercial strategy, very important, your numbers. Do you actually make any money? Your channels. Where do you make your money and what is the profit margins? All those things, good manufacturing practices, I also picked up from all these industry bodies, because then that is why I moved from one. I went and expanded my factory. I said, I need to meet good manufacturing practices so that anybody comes here, they inspect me, I'm okay. And through that, I got into Healthy You, 34 outlets. So I have 15 of my own outlets, which grew organically, and then I have the 34 Healthy You outlets. Now, the power of women, one positive thing is we have friends, we are connected, we're always talking to each other. How did I open my other shops? I had a friend who lived in Mombasa. She was selling from her house. She sold enough, graduated to a shop. I had a friend in Kisumu, the same thing. I had a friend in Eldoret, the same thing. A friend in Kericho, the same thing. So literally all my upcountry shops started in the houses. Now the ones here, for instance, I was doing a market in Sarit, a Tuesday market. I sold, I started talking to the management, they gave me a shop, yeah. BBS was coming up, it needed new people, so it wasn't vetting so much. I got into BBS. Waterfront, I had a stall again for like 2 years before I graduated into a shop. So women are risk averse, which is positive, because we will not do something which we believe we cannot sustain. We will not go and get 10 shops and do this and hire this. We will still now, that risk averse thing comes in. It comes in to protect you, to insulate you, so that you don't make any more stupid mistakes.
Okay, so you've talked about a lot of things, and there's this issue of you got a concoction, you went back to the village, you found something for women, for men, and all these things. Yeah. Tell me about patenting. How does that work? Now that you get this concoction, how does that work? And also tell me about now the formal sector. So you know, this is, you're a herbalist. Then there's the medicines, the formal medicines. Yeah. How does that work? Because sometimes there's the conflict. There are people who are like, okay, herbalists, are these things really working? So tell me how you balance that. And there's a lot of misinformation. As you said, you had that video. So people have to be like, does this really work? Yeah. How do you deal with all those issues?
So I would say the education around our products took about 3 years. Just talking to people all the time. The people who, you know, we are like the last resort. Somebody will take all these medications from doctors, they will see 5 gynas, they will travel to Turkey, they will travel to India, they will do IVF. IVF will fail 5 times before they get to us. So we are like, you know, last resort. I've tried everything. Now I'm here. Right? So it's kind of, we had a lot of, again, WhatsApp groups. People were talking about us. There's a PCOS WhatsApp group, an endo WhatsApp group. This thing is word of mouth, you know. When something is working, women will tell other women. When it's not working, the same women will tell other women. So I would say that the first element of sort of like educating the public on what it is, of course, I had to find the names. I did the intellectual property piece as well. I went to KIPI. And it was actually a very friendly interaction. You literally just come up with your formulation and then you submit and they give you a utility model. I did the same with my trademarks and my copyrights, and they're not expensive. For the first one, I used a lawyer. I got like a lawyer who works with SMEs to do the application for me and to tell me how to write the whole application. Now, once I have that, then you see obviously my background kicks in, because I have the requisite education. I have been an investment banker. I have 2 degrees, so I can say my formal education helped me so much in translating, because you know, in the village nobody knows what endometriosis is. There's nothing like that. If you tell them kuna mama kuna hii na hii, they'll tell you mwambie akunywe dawa huyo madam. They don't experience the kind of issues that we experience. So having said that, I can translate, I can do the language. So my clients started taking my products to doctors, and that is when doctors started reaching out to me. So one of them at Nairobi Hospital wanted to know, I have an auntie who, she was 54, and she was supposed to be almost finishing menopause. So she took my bottle and got a period, and she went there. And the doctor said, what have you been up to? And she said, oh, you know, my niece has this concoction that I took. I was just trying it. And he said, tell me who that woman is. I want to meet her. That was my relationship with doctors starting. And eventually, my clients overwhelmed doctors with my product, because they tell you, you just, uniambie what ultrasound is saying, tell me everything, but I'm taking this. And they take it with them. And that time it was just in those PET bottles. Until now, the doctors invited me into doctors groups and said, come and tell us what this is, or come and deal with your clients. So you can have, I'm in a doctors group actually at the waterfront. And every time there's hormonal imbalance, they tell you, Harriet, come and talk to your clients. You know, so that is how I got more legitimacy based on that. So then I started now talking to other people outside of the country to help me with the research. For instance, last year, I had a group come from a university, and there were students, there were some were biochem, some were med, some were biology, and some were social sciences. And they were coming to study traditional medicine in the context on infertility, and working also with developing cancer medication. So those kind of people, the reports they give me about my products help me now. I go back and I talk to my doctors. Some doctors give me clinical, anecdotal clinical results and say, I have given it to 30 patients and these are the results. So we are kind of like moving towards the pharmacological side.
So I hear you talking a lot about collaboration, because as you said, as you got to different counties, it was friends. And then now when you got to the medical field, it's those doctors really bringing you in to find out what you're about. Now, I'd like you to talk about the biggest challenges you've faced. The 5 years that you've been in manufacturing, what has been the biggest? We spoke about some of them, but what has been the biggest challenge and how have you overcome it?
The biggest challenge has been the stigma of traditional medicine. The fact that people don't believe it is real, and the lack of research facilities, and the lack of labs, sort of the lack of support. So you can only get over it because somebody knew you, and they knew you in a very positive way, so they will support you. People at University of Nairobi, for instance, were in school with me, 2 years behind me. The person who was MD of KIPI at the time was also in school, 6 years ahead of me. So I would say I have a very strong school network. All my schools, there's always someone who's a pharmacist. Right now I'm working with somebody who's a pharmacist in Kilifi, who graduated in 1973, and they are working with herbalists in that community to develop their medicines. I'm also working with a health economist, a doctor actually, who is very keen to identify alternative medicine that can support the current health systems that we have. Because 85% of Kenyans are going to traditional practitioners. So it is better if we integrate them in, like traditional birth attendants, right? So I would say the stigma was a big one. The financing, because you see, you are now required to build facilities that can compete with the pharmaceuticals or the alternative practitioners. You need shops, you need retail footprint, you need to train your people. Finance has been a big one, and I've grown organically. Actually, for me, I've not taken any loans or anything like that. And I'm at that stage now to grow more. I will need to bring in other partners, whether it's equity partners or debt partners or something like that. So I'd say those are the two main ones, the stigma and the financing.
Okay, as we get to your biggest win, I'd like you to zero in on that issue of stigma. So you say stigma has been a big issue, but at the same time, these products have been selling out. So help me understand how that works, because you see, they kept on selling out. You are chased from that stall, you are chased because it's selling out, but there's stigma at the same time.
There's stigma. Remember that when your customer is approaching you, they are first of all skeptical, so you get bullied. So let's say for 2 years online, I got bullied because there are others who are calling you a quack. Others will call you names. Others will persecute you. You know, when you walk into a doctor, you don't start asking them, how do you know? What's your qualification? When they say to you, you have an ovarian cyst, they say, how do you know? Where did you go to school? But me, when people come to my shops, they'll say, first of all, I want to talk to Harriet. Then now, okay, I have this condition and I'd like this. And then you give some kind of diagnosis. You make a comment, they say, how do you know? Did you study pharmacy? Are you a pharmacist? So you get that all the time, in every shop, in every region. You know, somebody will walk into Health You and challenge the person who's there. That is the stigma I'm talking about. There's entire groups of people who will not be happy because you're doing something that they're not used to. You know, this is innovation. You're breaking boundaries. You're breaking glass ceilings. You're penetrating an industry that has a lot of tradition. This is the medical profession. So they'll want to know, how can some people just come up with formulations and who are they? So that's the stigma, and it is a strong stigma. So the good thing is that the products are selling. If they're not selling, your business will just fold and you will move on. So that's when people walk into a pharmacy, they already believe the products are okay. They won't go and tell the person, okay, the person gives them Panadol. What's in it? I've never had anybody say, this chemotherapy pill you gave me, what is in it? Some of our products, Prunus africana, are what is used to make chemotherapy medication for men who have prostate cancer. In Europe, there's a French company that has a patent for Prunus africana bioactive component that they source from Kenya. When you're taking it, do you ever ask the manufacturer, what's in it? But for us, every single product, what's in it? Name the ingredients. Are you trying to poison me? It's the same. It's plant medicine. But the stigma with natural plant medicine that is African is very high. Compare with Ayurvedic medicine, compare with the Chinese medicine. Do you see Africa anywhere on the continent as people who actually have produced medicine? So those are the stigmas I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's true. People don't ask. You just get your meds and you don't ask what's in it.
And there can be some terrible side effects from, you know, allopathic medication, but you don't see them going to attack the manufacturer, writing on their profile and saying, you're wicked, you're trying to kill us, you're trying to do this. We get those kind of comments all the time. Oh, I took your product and I think that you're trying to kill women and you're trying to do this and you're all about money. So you never see anyone going to find the person who manufactured this painkiller or this cough medicine. You don't see people doing that on social media, directly or indirectly. So that's what I mean by the stigma is very direct.
Okay, so let's talk about the biggest win in this entrepreneurial journey. What has that been?
The biggest win is succeeding in a new niche industry that nobody thought I'd ever succeed. For me, joining industry bodies made a big difference because now I'm the CAM SME chair. And then I got into this MIT Core Sharper program, which is like, I'm now an MIT fellow. And I am tasked with creating the same thing I created here in different African countries. So this has been an incredible year for me. I won Innovator of the Year for Women in Manufacturing and Finance. I won SME of the Year for CAM last year. I've won 2 awards with Karen Business. I am up for a Wellness Award. I came second in a Resilience Award. So the biggest wins is like, yes, getting acceptance into the market for something that is homegrown. You know, we manufacture everything here. We source everything. The suppliers are here, the women in the village and the men in the village. So it's completely African. That for me is the biggest win.
Awesome. Congratulations on those wins. And I'd like to know, as we start to wrap up this conversation, moving into entrepreneurship, you're in employment, Goldman Sachs, abroad and all that. That element of work-life balance, what has that looked like for you over the years?
You see, I worked in a very highly competitive industry. So I'd say I was in the office 8 to 8 was a normal day. Sometimes you leave at midnight, especially when you're an analyst. So I find even though I work hard now because I can be working in the night or I work all the time. I would class myself as typical workaholic personality. So many people think I'm overworked. I don't feel stretched at all. You know, compared to what I was doing before, I control my own time. I can leave in the middle of the day and go to the gym. I can wake up and go for a swim. I have more money, so I can do more things. I can go to nicer destinations. I travel when I want. The freedom is unbelievable, just being in control of your life. I mean, when I worked before, I had set holiday, I had set times, I had to spend time with people who maybe I don't feel this person is not nice. It could be a toxic work environment. I can't leave. But now I'm completely in charge of my own destiny. I mean, it's amazing. Awesome,
awesome. And would you say that it takes a while to get there? Because as you know, there are these memes that go around like when you're your own boss, you can't sleep because you're in charge of everything, right? But now when you reach a certain level, you've scaled to a certain level, then that freedom comes with it. Would you say that? Because I don't think someone starting is...
Someone starting, for instance, maybe they're not taking themselves that seriously at the time when they're just selling the 5 bottles or the 10 bottles or the 10 jams. It's when now you have a consignment to deliver 100,000 pieces somewhere, and then you start getting very stressed. If you don't have systems, you will never ever sleep. The systems include your employees, how your employees behave. You need, whether you like it or not, you need systems in place. You need a POS, a point of sale system. You need IT. You need IT in the back. You need IT in the front. You need a PA. You need an integrator, somebody who brings it all together. You need a therapist, for sure. You need a personal trainer, right? So there's things you're going to need when you're at the top of your game. You're going to need a counselor, a therapist, a physical trainer, and a doctor. Right? And you need to make sure you're getting some sleep. But once your systems are in place, you can travel for 2 weeks and things are just working. Things are just working. Imagine somebody like, somebody said to me, somebody like Vimal Shah has this app that he opens and he looks at all his channels and all his shops and all his things are moving. And maybe he's playing golf. That's how it becomes. So if you go to the golf course now, you're going to find all the CEOs are there hanging out, having a good time. They go to spas. They can afford the best sort of therapists, they read the best books, they watch the best documentaries, they can travel to a film festival, they can go for yoga for 1 week. So obviously it's only when you now choose to intentionally put the things in your business that will support you. Yeah, no man is an island, and it takes a village. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to grow a business. All those people, your customers are your community, your siblings, your family, your relatives are your community. The people who support you, who you don't even know. All the people who follow you on social media, the 80,000 that follow me on Facebook, they are your community. So you must leverage and agree to let go. Let go and let God.
Nice. I like that. And as we come to a close, I'd like you to look into your camera and speak to that woman who is thinking of getting into manufacturing and doesn't know how to go about it. What's that one piece of advice you'd give her about taking themselves seriously?
For that woman who's trying to get into manufacturing, I can tell you that literally the world is your oyster. You have the greatest ideas. You definitely have the mettle to do what it takes. You have the capacity. All you need to do is number one, trust yourself, dream big, have a big vision, have a vision board, and take that step. The first step, which is creating the product and actually offering it for sale to somebody. The most important part of manufacturing is not necessarily the manufacturing side, but the selling side. So remember that as long as you can sell your product, as long as there's somebody else who wants your product, then you can do now the backward linkages. You could also do contract manufacturing. You don't have to be the actual manufacturer. You can be the reseller of your own product, of your own formulation. So take yourself seriously enough, believe in who you are. I know this is something that is said all the time, but it's becoming even more real for us women in this century, that we need to be so serious about who we are. Take that step to becoming the mogul that you deserve to be.
Awesome. You've heard it from Harriet Ng'ok, the founder of Harriet Botanicals. Take yourself seriously. The world is your oyster and you can achieve all that you set out to achieve. This has been She Means Business. I have been your host, Claire Munde. Until next time, have a good one.